It's actually even labeled. That's great. Look at that. So this is really good by Valve. So mainboard P2 contacts down. That's cool. I mean, that's going to make it a lot easier for someone to repair in the future. Extremely clearly labeled cable. Actually, everything. I think everything has a QR code. This board, the FSC board, QR code. That looks like Valve is preparing to provide materials for repair. I am happy with this as far as the assembly goes. Repairability is excellent. So today we have the Steam Controller 2.2. We're going to take it apart. This is going to be a teardown where we're focusing strictly on disassembling Valve's new Steam controller, looking at the repairability, how it kind of comes together. Hopefully, not a lot of glue. Hopefully, not a lot of Dremels, saws, or angle grinders. I have had to use those on controllers in the past, and they did not survive. I think technically the Stadia one you can still use, but Stadia didn't survive, so a little bit of a different problem. But we're going to take this apart. I'm looking forward to seeing how it comes together. We'll have separate testing up on the latency, performance of the controller, usability, all that stuff. This is strictly on the mechanical side. And as Valve says, it's your games at your fingertips, asterisk. I'm going to go with, I'm guessing our French viewers can tell us what this says maybe. I will read one word though, because it looks funny. I think this word is doiks. So the games at your doiks. We're going to, I don't know if you're allowed to say that on YouTube. I'm not really sure what it means, but let's go to the teardown. Before that, this video is brought to you by Arctic and their MX7 thermal paste. Arctic's new MX7 is a higher viscosity paste, with Arctic claiming that the increase in viscosity from filler content and the texture benefit improve its performance while reducing the risk of the pump out effect over time. MX7 is intended for longer endurance applications and to be left in use for extended service life. Arctic also now has a counterfeit paste checking website because, believe it or not, knockoff paste from non-first-party sources is actually relatively common for the big brands to experience, so they have a site to check the validity of it. Get a tube of Arctic's MX7 thermal paste at the link in the description below. So for this, we'll do a quick kind of fly around first, where externally, this is going to be just two halves of a shell, and then it looks like I might need a kind of guitar pick in there to maybe push them apart if they're plastic snaps or anything. Got USB-C right in the middle, splitting the shell. On the back, in terms of hardware, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it looks like, screw holes. None under the sticker there. And then these are Torx. So that down there, you're not going to be able to see it on the camera, but those look like a Torx 6 to me. So we're going to have to get a longer Torx driver to pull that apart. But at least it's not like the Stadia controller, or whatever one it was I had to Dremel in half previously. Oof, that's hot plastic.
See a lot of clips that you would never be able to get off.
Jesus Christ. So for the rest, it's all the specs we already know. There's the D-pad over here. You have the 4 face buttons, the TMR sticks. So that's supposed to be Valve's special feature they're doing, is specifically the TMR sticks. And then we have the 2 touchpads, which give you kind of that laptop-like input, and then a couple of other buttons on top, like the Steam button. On the back, we've got bumpers and triggers, and then some more buttons down here where where the hand rests on the back of the device. So we're just going to take this apart. There's also this puck, which is for wireless connectivity, and you can sit the controller on here for charging if you wanted. All right, so to start out, we'll grab Torx 6 from our toolkit. You can grab these on store.gamersnexus.net if you want to get one. They have 10 drivers in them. We're working on a mod mat. We've been selling these for about pretty close to 10 years now, actually. I think about 9 maybe. So those are on the store if you want a work surface like this. So that is a Torx 6. That's a good fit. Just going to start removing screws. That is just a large coarse screw, and then we're going to have, I think, 7 of those. Okay, cool. Wow, that was easy. All right, so let's pull it apart properly now. So internally, we'll start with the back because that's easy. Just a plastic shell. You can see these buttons and the grips. Those are just plastic springs. So I mean that would be the plastic spring. Really simple mechanism. See this a lot on controllers. So those are pretty simple. So these are contact pads here, where these ones are going to apply to the back of these pins. We've got our pins for charging on the puck up there. And then moving over to the controller itself. So first thing I'm going to do here is disconnect the battery, just so we don't blow anything up. I'm not sure if, oh, that was, all right, that's sick. That's great. This is really good repairability. So if you have a battery that balloons at some point or dies, you would literally just pull out the, what is it, 7 screws, I think, 1, 2, 3, 6 or 7 screws, 7 screws. You'd pull them out, and then the battery just unseats. No glue, no bullshit, not even a cable. It's just a direct pad contact. So we've got these gold pads over here. That's where you're going to connect in. So no cables or anything. That is super easy. I mean, that's great to see because battery's really the only reason you'd be in there mostly. Maybe if the thumbsticks go bad, Valve is pretty confident in their TMR sticks. In the review window we have, which is fairly long for a review window, it's a couple weeks, but in that window, that's obviously not enough time for a thumbstick to go bad. So we'll just have to see how those do over time. But most likely this is the thing that gets replaced in most instances. And this is so it's a lithium ion battery. It is 3.85 volts, 2,178 milliamp hours. Yeah, limited charging voltage, 4.39 volts. Then rated energy, it says 8.39 watt hours. So that's the battery. The parts will probably be available separately. Valve's done that in the past with the Steam Deck, which we actually also have pulled apart over here. And they've sold these with iFixit in the past, like the bits and pieces. So I suspect they'll probably do that again with the more likely to fail parts of the controller or whatever those might be. But that's a good start. The battery, very easy to remove. So we'll set that aside. As for what's underneath it, we've now removed the power. So we've removed risk of shorting things as I dismantle the rest. Looks like we have 2 more Torx screws holding in this plastic battery cage with just a piece of foam in here for kind of getting that fit and holding it in place. And then we get down to the main board, which has the connections to all of the sort of satellite components like rumble and gyro. I would suspect the wireless or Bluetooth antenna will be in there as well. So let's start pulling this apart. We'll begin with the plastic battery cage. All right. Cool. So just for the record, these are a different size. So if you were to take this apart, you'd want to make sure you keep the screws together by whatever they came out of. So I'm going to separate these over here. All right, internally, we have an MS2833 controller. I'm not sure what that does without pulling up the data sheet, but that's the module in the middle here is. A couple more screws up top, one down here. That'll let us remove the board. We've got some power plugged in. So these are really thin. These are like super easy to break cables. We'll be careful with those or maybe even leave them connected. Oh, maybe it pulls. Does this one pull? And then this becomes removable carefully. Yep. It's actually even labeled. That's great. Look at that. So this is really good by Valve. So Mainboard P2 contacts down. That's cool. I mean, that's going to make it a lot easier for someone to repair in the future. First of all, great job, Valve. This is cool. The controller itself, we'll talk about that in the usability section and everything, the testing. But from an assembly standpoint, they have really clear, just plain English labels rather than a string of hex numbers and letters and stuff. And anyone can decipher it. If you were to fully disassemble this and put every cable out, you would be able to look at the labels and figure out exactly where it goes again without photos, which is awesome. This is really well done on them for repairability, maintenance, service. It probably makes it a lot easier to modify these too. If there's any modders who wanted to do stuff with this, it makes it a lot easier to kind of create an ecosystem for people. So yeah, same thing, FSC contacts down. So that's going to cover our cables. I'm really excited about that though. This is a pretty rare level of just like clear, non-arcane labeling. I'm going to unscrew each of these just a little bit first. It's actually got a date stamp there. 2025, September 12th. That is 2 months before they showed it to us. to the press. I don't know if this is an early sample or if they've actually just been making these for that long, but likely with the RAM situation, it's likely these controllers have been sitting on a shelf since they were made. That's different length than exterior, but that is the same type of screw that's used in the battery cage. So far, we just have 2 types of screws. That's going to make things easier too. All right, all 3 screws out for the board. And just see, nothing else suspending that except for those cables. And then on the underside, we've got the sticks. I think it's going to be the safest if I disconnect these. These are really tiny wires, so if you're ever working on a device like this, you just have to be careful to not pull by the wire because it will pull it out of the socket. I'm going to see if I can. Okay, so you can get a grip on the actual black connector in there. That makes that easier. Yep, all right, so we are free of that. So this controller, we've got solder points here from the front side. That's gonna be for the TMR sticks. So if we flip this over, the sticks are sitting right on top of that, and that appears to be how they're connected. They each have a cable coming out of them, this blue cable, and that cable is glued and then soldered to a contact pad. So that's probably one of the least repairable in the sense that if you needed to replace this, you'd have to cut something, remove some glue. Not the worst thing to deal with, but glue is never particularly fun in doing a repair. We have some contacts over here. And then we've got this pad here, which seems to correspond with this cable in the controller body. So this is actually, it's kind of hard to see, but it's going underneath here, under this plastic body, and then that is routing over to the corners. So that's going out to our triggers and probably our bumpers. So that's carrying that data and going into the main board here, which makes sense. I'm not 100% sure, but my understanding is that this piece of metal here might actually be the antenna based on our conversations with Valve previously. And if that's the case, what that does is that puts the antenna right up here. So you're kind of as close as possible to where you need to be sending the signal anyway. You're going through the fewest layers. You're away from other electronics. And most importantly, you're away from people's hands. Unless you're some kind of freak and you hold your controller like this, I guess. In which case, please stop. That's weird. And I'm not judging you, but you have a problem. So don't hold your controller like this, and probably the antenna's okay. Or I guess maybe if you held your controller like this, it would also be problematic. I don't know. But anyway, the antenna appears to be up there. Some other interesting things we're seeing here. So the IR LED is next to the regular status LED. So this can be used for tracking by the Steam frame when that comes out. The small piece you're seeing here, the IR LED, is what the frame will be looking at for that tracking. We're also seeing the grip sensors that are in the handles that we already know detect when you're holding the controller. This is something that Valve showed when they first unveiled the controller. It can be used as another input or control, but this is how it works. And also, the gyro is a 6-axis IMU, and separately, there is a magnet for connection to the puck in this set of parts. For the rest of this, a lot more to look at on this board. USB-C, that's kind of about it. So let's move on to the next part, which is going to be what they call the FSC board. And this one is going to be a little harder to get access to. We need to remove these to get to the corners of it. So I'm gonna pull those out first. A lot of screws internally holding this thing together, just trying to prevent flex. So we've got this rod going through that it's sort of actuating on, and then it pushes the spring, obviously, and then it stops on the plastic stopper. Okay. All right, cool. That was easy. Figure we try pulling on stuff before I start smashing things. So that was a secret that took a minute to figure out, but just pulling this rod out that it's all hinged on. Easy enough. Took a second, but now that it's documented, it wouldn't be too hard for anyone else if you needed to go this far down. Uncommon, I would think, but that gives us access to these final 2 screws that I know of so far for the plastic frame. Okay, is it? Okay, Dobby is free. So there you go. That's pretty cool. That was worth taking out. So that is what the inside of the controller looks like, where all the buttons contact. I'm not sure if these look like carbon pads to me, the contact pads. So actually, there's 2 types of pads here. So we've got D-pad input, and then on the right side we have the face buttons, and then let's see. Oh, you can see actually now the bumpers. Now that they're free of the trigger, these are just on these like plastic hinges here. So this whole thing is just a plastic mechanism, and then when you press it, it's pressing down on top of this rubber contact, which then does this come free? Yeah, that'll be fun to put back later. That's pushing on the contact pad there, which then sends the signal. And it's pretty cool. You can see the exposed traces. So it's going to go all the way down here, come back up through that cable we were looking at earlier, which goes into the motherboard, the main board as they call it. Okay, I think that gives us a pretty good look at the inside of the sort of the frame. And the last thing we've got, these are the rubber underside, and then on the other side of those is going to be the face buttons, the actual plastic buttons. We have the steam button here, so that's just going to be a piece of rubber with like a dimple on it that gets depressed when you push the button, and that applies the force that the center pad down to contact with the board and send the signal. So that's how that works. This is not unique to Valve. That's just how a controller works. Internally, we have actually even more PCBs underneath this. This is reminding me a lot of the Steam Deck. A lot easier to take apart. So here we might start getting into the screws that are different. I might be missing 5. Let's see if it's 4. Maybe I get lucky. Oh my God, it's 4. Okay, good. Good, because we're missing 5. So I'm going to start with the screws in the board. All right. That is a different screw by length and by the screw itself. All right. There we go. So that is the FSC board. Got some probe points you could use for debug, I guess. So there's probe points scattered around here. These look to correlate to the touchpads, the 2 set of traces out here with the 4 corners. So we'll set that aside also with the unique screws. And then underneath, I'm just going to probably take one of these out. This is really familiar in some ways to the Steam Deck. Okay, pull that out. Cool. Once again, extremely clearly labeled cable. So that's the FSC contact down, and then on the other side here, trackpad, contacts up, plugged into the back side of that. Then there's a QR code here. I'm not sure if that's usable or not. There's actually QR codes on a lot of these. There's a QR code on the plastic housing as well. Actually, I think everything has a QR code. This board, the FSC board, QR code. That, I think they must have, or maybe I've forgotten. We'll find out for the review, but that looks like Valve is preparing to provide materials for repair, or maybe one of their partners. So that's pretty great. That's going to be it for the teardown. I mean, pretty straightforward. It took a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what's our run time.
44 minutes.
44 minutes. Took 44 minutes with the hosting. You do a little bit faster if you're not making a video, but not bad. It's very easy to take apart. Not a single screw is stripped, not a single Dremel used. So that's good. The things I'm really happy about here, so ignoring everything else about the controller, ignoring battery life, latency, usability, all that stuff, strictly from a mechanical and assembly side, this is awesome. They have really clear labeling. It's human readable. So, a lot of stuff has labeling, but it's normally numbers and letters, and you have to go decode it and figure out what that means. This is just plain text. That's great. Really easy to put back together on your own. Probably don't need to go to the internet to figure out what something is because it just tells you, and it tells you where it goes. That's good. The QR codes everywhere will make it much easier to identify things as well, maybe find replacement parts. So I am happy with this as far as the assembly goes. Repairability is excellent. So Valve, job well done on that. That's huge to us because even, again, everything else aside on the usability of the product, it's really important to be able to maintain things and keep them in service if you like it, especially as devices like peripherals are fleeting. They're kind of in vogue for a while. They stop making them. And if you really like a controller, being able to maintain it is just that much more important. So very happy to see Valve's approach to this. That's going to be the teardown for the Steam controller, not 2, but technically 2. And we will have additional coverage on this. So head over to store.gamersnexus.net to support us directly. Like if you want to grab one of our toolkits that I used in this video or our anti-static PC building mod mats, you can get those on the store and support us directly, or patreon.com/gamersnexus. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.